Greetings. I am making this a sort of introductory video to my channel, specifically towards the Armada section of it. Wanted to show some things to you, specifically some of the custom accessories that I use in case you were interested from if you watched my first epic long video, the 1200 point Battle of Endor I did with Rob. If you saw the custom rulers I was using, just give you some information on that. And then I also want to talk to you about one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, and that is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and how I usually run him and his ship, the Chimera, because you will be seeing a lot of the Chimera on my battle reports. I run Thrawn probably 90% of the time. I do try to change it up with other commanders occasionally. However, I definitely prefer Thrawn, so you will be seeing him a lot. First, however, I'd like to show you some of the custom work that I had done by an individual on Etsy, and I'll give you his information here shortly, and I will have it in the description below of the YouTube channel. So, first off, as you can see, the cover to his custom things that he does, I think I was either the first or second person to request the Chimera symbol. He was testing it out, and I was one of his guinea pigs getting the Chimera symbol done. Very pleased with this. And that is a covering to this board that houses all of these custom maneuver tools, range markers, etc. So the bottom ones here are all for judging distance. This is for those who are not familiar with Armada, 5 through 1. And the reason why it's helpful to have one of each individual distance is when you're trying to fit in between ships for smaller distances, you're not trying to use the primary long ruler that can get in the way when you're trying to fine-tune distances. And the same is true for the ranges, for long, medium, and short range. And then this is a custom one for distance 1. It's got this little handle here that makes it easier to get down into close ranges. And also these little jagged tubes here, they fit into the maneuver sections for ships. So you can place this on the board to remove a ship to mark a spot when you're trying to do maneuvers with other ships where they might overlap or get close, etc. Then, of course, there are slots for each individual maneuver tool. He does not provide these, the gentleman I'm about to introduce. You basically have to buy these separately, but I greatly enjoy having a separate tool for each distance of maneuver, again, just for ease of fitting it on the board, not getting it in the way of things. So if you are getting into Armada, or if you've been in it and you haven't done this, getting multiple different ranges of maneuver tools, I personally have found it worth the extra cost of just buying some extra maneuver tool packs and creating the smaller ones to make it far more easier to navigate. Another thing you might have noticed, I did go for the wood board. He does acrylic sometimes for the backings, but some of his nicer work are these wood ones where you can see it's got like the Superstar Destroyer, a planet background, some other destroyers in the distance. Really fantastic wood etching work here. And he does, I believe, also have a Republic version. And I know I got this done about a little over a year ago, so I imagine he has a lot more options now as he's continued to expand his business. And lastly, just some other things that I decided to get from his site. We've got a turn counter, and again with the Thrawn symbol, because like I said, I'm a bit of a fanatic when it comes to Thrawn. And then I got 4 of these markers. These can also be used to mark ships or squadrons, but also primarily for marking your edges when you're deploying, instead of the cardboard ones that come in the base game. So, and I'm still rather experimenting with this dual screen camera work here. This is his page on Etsy. It's Admiral Tater Ship Shop. His name is Garrett, and he did very fine work, great customer service, and you can see he has a lot of options to choose from for custom items for Star Wars Armada and some things for X-Wing. And just, you know, he didn't ask me to do this. I'm not, this isn't a promotion or an ad or anything. I just felt compelled to give him a shout out because I'm very happy with his work and I want to make sure he is recognized for the work that you will be seeing on my channel, because you will be seeing those rulers on every single bat rep I do, because that is what I exclusively use for playing Star Wars Armada. Now, after that's all done, let's move on to talking about Thrawn. Now, for those of you who are familiar with another YouTuber who talks about Armada, probably one of the more famous ones, if not the most famous, his name is Krabok. And he does this a lot. He goes to Ryan Kingston's Armada Fleet Builder, which I believe is the best. And I know this, I don't want to seem like I'm copying. You could say that I am imitating. And all credit to Krabok for giving me the idea of doing fleet builds and talking about different cards and stuff in here, because it's very easy to reference on this website, and doing the split screen, etc. So I would go into my Imperial side here, and you can see I have here Thrawn base build. Essentially, when I'm playing Thrawn, I start with a base that is always the same every time. And to start, we have an Imperial 2 class Star Destroyer. The Imperial 2 is my favorite ship in the game, and although I know that the Chimera actually is an Imperial 1, especially from Star Wars Rebels, I kind of did a little modification in my mind that his Chimera had been upgraded, at least eventually, in my mind, to an Imperial 2 capabilities, because I just like that ship better. And obviously, I select Grand Admiral Thrawn as my leader, and for those that are not familiar, we'll just go over some of the rules. Thrawn is very unique in Armada in that at the beginning of the game, you get to choose 3 command dials, and you place them in secret on top of Thrawn's card. Now what this means is, throughout the game, at the beginning of any ship phase of a turn, you can reveal one of them. It doesn't have to be in order, you can choose whichever one you want. And your entire fleet gets the additional benefit of that command dial, which essentially means that every ship in your fleet on that turn will get the command dial that you have revealed on the specific ship, and the Thrawn dial. The effectiveness of 2 full commands from a dial, which is very powerful. And I like this because it really characterizes the nature of Thrawn when it comes to the novelization, etc., with him being a grand strategist, the keenest mind in all of Star Wars when it comes to fleet action and strategy, etc., and needing to plan ahead with what you want your overall strategy of the battle to be. And I love the flexibility of being able to not have to worry for 3 turns what one command will be for my entire fleet. Next, we'll go to the title of Chimera. And I'll be honest, I don't really see this much on other battle reports that I've watched, and I do like watching battle reports, but I love this title. So the Chimera title allows you to add a fleet command icon to your ship. And what those icons represent are upgrades. Each ship has a certain number of upgrades that you can add to the ship to give it additional abilities. And fleet commands, as the name would suggest, affects the entire fleet. Some of them are iffy and okay. Some of them are really powerful, and I really enjoy using them. The unique thing about Chimera is that at the start of every turn, you can swap out a fleet command for another one. No other title or ship or ability can let you do that in the entire game. Another chance for maximum flexibility as you go throughout your battle to be able to decide what is most effective for your fleet actions. And the ones that I specifically like, and actually let me go ahead and pull those up so that you can see some examples. The first one that I usually go with to either start the game or just to have it there just in case is Entrapment Formation. And this allows your entire fleet, when it's activated, to change their speed by 1. And this is useful so you don't have to give navigate commands to your ships. If you're planning on doing that fleet action, they can have another command. Or if you are doing a navigate command, it can allow ships, especially faster ships, to change their speed drastically, because with a dial and a token, you can change your speed twice. So you can accelerate to really fast, or if you're going fast, you can slow down considerably to get a better shot or be in better position. Another navigational one that I really like, which is the second one, is called Take Evasive Action. And this one allows you to change the yaw value at the end of your movement. Now what that means is the yaw value affects how many clicks you can do on the maneuver tile or the maneuver tool when you're turning your ship. And when you combine this with a navigate dial, which allows you to change an additional click somewhere along your maneuver tool, you can actually get 2 additional clicks with the Take Evasive Action. And I love using this to great effect because I love Imperial Star Destroyers, whether it's Imperial 2s or just in general. And especially going at speed 2, because at speed 2, an Imperial Star Destroyer, just to give an example, normally can click 1 and 1. And you can do various different combinations, but 1 at the 1 and 1 at the 2. With Take Evasive Action, you can get another one at the 2. And with the Navigate Dial, you can get another one at the 1. Now this is an extremely hard turn, which makes large ships far more maneuverable than anybody's expecting. And it really allows you to maintain that forward fire arc on an Imperial Star Destroyer, which is the primary firepower you get from those ships. And one of the difficulties that I had to learn while piloting those large ships is how to maintain that forward arc on the enemy so I'm getting the maximum amount of firepower to take down enemy ships. Which is why it's one of my favorite to use is the Take Evasive Action Fleet Command. And then the third one, which I use, is, nope, not that one. That's one I hardly ever use, is Intensify Firepower. And this one is just good for all-around fleet action because it allows you to change 1 dice to a hit, a face with just a single hit. You can't get any doubles, etc. And this is great just for getting that extra damage. It helps with additional dice mitigation, which means the ability to change dice and modify dice. And I just love having this as an opportunity to be able to just get that, maybe sometimes just that 1 extra hit. And 1 extra hit over the entire fleet, especially if you're firing twice from each ship, that can add up really fast. And it's usually between those three fleet commands that I swap out in between every round for most of my games. In case you're interested, the other 2 I don't hardly use at all. All Fighters Follow Me allows you to increase the speed of your fighters when they're activated. I don't really need it that much when I play Empire because almost all Empire ships have at least speed 4. And I love Defenders. They're my favorite fighter, and they have speed 5, which is the maximum. So that is no use to me. And Shields to Maximum, it allows every ship in your fleet to increase 1 shield by 1. I've never had a chance to use it, but in case it ever comes up, it might be useful in the future, but I've never had occasion to use it. But the nice thing about Chimera, if it does come up, I can use it, which is why I love the Chimera title, is that I can swap between these fleet commands throughout the game. I don't have to just pick one and be stuck with it for the entire game. Now, one thing about fleet commands that you have to be aware of is that you can spend them and discard the card to activate them, or if you want to maintain the fleet command, you can activate them with a corresponding command token. Now, command tokens are like subcommands that are not as effective as a full dial, and in order for me to be effective using fleet commands consistently, I need to have a consistent source of command tokens. And that, fortunately, is where it comes in my officer, which is also very narrative with Thrawn, and sticking with the Chimera, which is Commander Vanto. For those of you who have read the new Thrawn books, know that Commander Vanto is essentially Watson to Thrawn's Sherlock. He is the one that Thrawn talks to outline his grand strategies, his thinking, how he outwitted the enemy. A lot of the novelizations are actually told from Commander Vanto's point of view. Now, Commander Vanto's ability, which is pretty amazing, is that when I activate the Chimera, I then tap him, and I get a command token of whatever I want. Now, this does involve pre-planning, because to activate a fleet command, you have to spend the token at the beginning of the turn. So turn 1, I never do a fleet command because I don't have a token yet. But then I start pre-planning a turn ahead of what do I want my fleet command to be. So, and since I usually do Entrapment Formation, take evasive action, which are both navs, or Intensify Firepower, which is concentrate fire, I basically just pick between those two tokens and just alternate depending on what I want coming forward. And it does take some pre-planning, and it took quite a few games of practice to get it right, to remember, one, to tap and get the token, and to get the correct token that I want, what I think I'm going to need for the next turn for that particular fleet command. So moving along, you'll then go to the weapons officer slot. And this used to be gunnery teams. And gunnery teams allows you to shoot twice out of the same hull zone. Normally the rule is every ship can shoot twice, but you have to pick a different hull zone to shoot from. And gunnery team allowed you to shoot twice from the same hull zone, but it had to be at different targets. Very effective with the Star Destroyer because they have their most powerful arc is the front arc, and if you can shoot twice out of that, it maximizes their firepower. There's been a change now in 1.5 of Armada, where you have to spend a concentrate fire token or dial to activate gunnery teams. Now it is possible I could try to finagle getting extra concentrate fire tokens to be able to activate gunnery teams, but I'm also wanting a concentrate fire token a lot of times for Intensify Firepower, and I just didn't want to deal with that extra complexity. Plus, I also really enjoy this new card that showed up about a year ago called Local Fire Control, which adds a new defense token, which is also brand new about a year ago, called the Salvo. And what Salvo does is when you're being attacked, you can choose that defense token to shoot back at the enemy that attacked you. And you get to shoot back with the rear battery arc of whatever of the ship that's you're commanding. And the rear battery arc of an Imperial 2 is 2 blue and a red. And you might think, wow, 3 dice is not much compared to the forward arc of 8 dice. It's not, but just think about 3 dice is actually about the standard dice for a lot of smaller ships, especially for the Rebels, and the Rebels run lots of small ships. So it makes the Rebel player think, do I even want to shoot at this Star Destroyer who could shoot back at me and do even more damage to me, and I have low hit points and low shields? Or when they attack me and they get that accuracy, are they thinking, do I want to stop his brace or his ability to redirect the damage, or do I not want to be shot back and stop the salvo instead, which then would allow me to brace and redirect and take less damage? It just gives more bad choices for my opponent, and I always like giving bad choices to my opponent. Next, we'll go to the defensive retrofit, and that is the early warning system. And I usually went between this and electronic countermeasures. Electronic countermeasures is another very powerful card that used to be an auto take on almost every build that everyone ever did. And that allowed you to, when someone accuracied one of your defense tokens, like I was just talking about, that prevents you from using it, you can use electronic countermeasures to use it anyway. Now, with electronic countermeasures, you can do that once. You have to tap the card, and the only way to refresh it is you have to spend an engineering token or dial to get it back. And like I said, similar to gunnery teams, I'm already doing tokens shenanigans to maintain my fleet commands. It's just something I don't want to worry about with electronic countermeasures. And besides, I like early warning system anyway. And what that does is I pick one hull zone on my ship at the start of each turn, and any shot coming at that is considered obstructed. What that means is the attacker has to remove a dice. That can be very effective against small ships that have low dice pools, and extremely effective against enemy squadrons, especially when they can't get to adjacent hull zones, because most enemy squadrons, or just squadrons in general, have 1 dice to throw at ships. Very few bombers have 2 dice. And if you only have 1 dice and you subtract it to 0, you can't form a dice pool, you can't take the shot. So I really like early warning system for my Chimera builds. I have been contemplating another card that I might switch to. I might do it in my next game, see how it works. It's called Advanced Projectors. And this got a huge boost So it still does on the card what it's always done. It allows you, when you redirect, it doesn't have to be to the adjacent hull zone or just one hull zone. You can redirect to multiple hull zones around your ship to have all of your shields absorb the damage coming in. The reason why this wasn't as effective is because of the prevalence of an upgrade that we're about to get to called XI7 turbo lasers. That means that when you're defending, you can only redirect one damage. You can't redirect multiple damage. XI7s now says that you can only redirect one damage to each hull zone. So that means with advanced projectors, even if someone's got XI7s coming at you, you can still redirect 3 damage. Considering it, I might give it a shot, because I think it might be far more effective now. But I still like early warning system, and I'm probably going to be sticking with early warning system for the foreseeable future, except for maybe some test games. Next, let's get to the ion cannon upgrade slot. And this is where I almost exclusively, and I really have never changed, I take leading shots. One of my favorite upgrades in the entire game. It went from 4 points to 6 points, so it's more expensive, but it's still totally worth it. And it allows you to spend one of your blue dice in your dice pool to re-roll any or all of your dice. You can pick what you want to re-roll and try to get a better result. And I love having that super flexible ability to mitigate and modify my dice when I'm attacking, especially when I'm doing that large 8 dice frontal attack. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I know a lot of other people like leading shots. It's just a great card. And lastly, we will come to the Turbo Laser upgrade slot. And this one is one where I've also pretty much kept it the same from the beginning of my design of the Chimera. And that is the XI7s. And as I was talking about before, just a few minutes ago, XI7s prevents your opponent from redirecting more than 1 damage to a hull zone. Now, as I was saying, with advanced projectors kind of gets around that, where you can redirect to multiple hull zones now. But still, when you're attacking someone and they can only redirect 1 damage out of this massive salvo coming in from your mighty forward arc, it makes my accuracies able to target more valuable things on their defense. It means I'm probably less likely to accuracy a redirect, because I don't care if they redirect. They're only redirecting one of my damages coming in. I'm more likely to redirect their braces, or their scatters, or their evades. And those can be far more bad for me when it comes to the enemy to mitigate my dice. And even actually going to contain when I know a crit's coming through, so he has to take it face up. So just, again, it gives me less options to have to worry about when attacking, because I can just completely ignore the redirect option on my opponents. Now lastly, with my Thrawn build, and this, again, kind of goes towards my narrative, trying to keep in with the Thrawn narrative side of things, is TIE Defenders. I love TIE Defenders. They're my favorite squadron in the whole game. They're also the most expensive non-unique squadron in the whole game. Excuse me. At 16 points. A lot of named specialty characters on squadrons are less than 16 points. I think they're worth it. I think they're great. Just look at the stats up there. We've got 5 speed, which is the fastest you can go. 6 health, which is insane. The most health on anything is 7. I think there might be an 8. Yeah, I think there might be a couple 8 health things, but most things are definitely less than 6. You get 4 dice when attacking 2 blue, 2 black, which is absolutely crazy. And a blue dice when attacking ships with the bomber keyword, so your crits count against ships. I think they're fantastic. I take 4 of them, because that's all I have. If I ever can find some more, I might actually upgrade my base build to 6 TIE Defenders. And for those of you who have watched Star Wars Rebels, spoilers, is that Thrawn in the new canon actually developed and designed the TIE Defender. And he actually was trying to take funding away from the Death Star from Tarkin, and felt that focusing more on elite fighters would help counter the Rebels' prevalence towards better fighters, like the X-Wings and B-Wings and A-Wings, etc. And he also felt that resources were wasted on the Death Star because he felt best to build more fleets and ships and, like I said, more advanced fighters, so you can actually spread out your forces and have more galactic control than just putting all your eggs in one basket with the Death Star. And which he was right, but I digress. So that is my primary Thrawn base build, and then I just add on to that when I'm doing games. So you can see at the top here, the total points for this is 255 points. Standard games are 400 points, so it gives me 145 to fill in. It's not much, but I can still fill in a pretty decent amount to complement this base build with Thrawn and the Chimera. And since I do like to run actually 600 points games, Rob, my friend, actually I have another friend named Rob who also likes this as well, because 600 points just gives us, since we can bring more stuff, it gives us more of a feel of like more bigger fleet actions, like you actually have a fleet you're commanding in the battle. And it does take longer with the games, but usually when we play, we set aside a whole Saturday sometimes just to play and hang out and take our time. So I hope you enjoyed this and getting some information into one of the base fleet designs you're going to see moving forward as I start producing more videos and more battle reports, and for seeing some of the gear that I use for when I play Armada. And I do hope that you'll subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. And any suggestions and comments for making the channel better and for making my battle reports better, and suggestions on types of battles you'd like to see with Armada, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and especially on the first video I posted, that epic 3.5 hour game, as I figure out different ways to film and cut and angle and frame, etc. So thank you for watching. Oh, I guess I should say, my name is Ben, by the way. Probably good to give my name out there. So hope you all have a wonderful day.